Well, there's a lot to get to in the world of politics. You've been all over this election from day one. Your book really was the speech that Trump gave when he announced that he's running for president. And now we have a neck-and-neck race as we're within the final 6 weeks of this election. Voting has actually started in some states, including Iowa, where he's leading in recent polls. What do you make of everything so far?
Well, for one thing, Trump voters, get out and register to vote, please. I read on 538 today that, yeah, Trump could, and by the way, I do think Trump will get more of the black and Hispanic vote than any other Republican. But even if he does nothing but slightly increase the white blue-collar vote, yeah, he can win just with that. Unfortunately, these are people, as I describe in the book, there are people who have not voted for 20 or 30 years, and they can't wait to vote for Trump. According to 538 today, unfortunately, they're not registering. So, little tip, word to the wise, you need to register to vote, and a lot of those deadlines are coming up fast. I mean, it's easy. The Democrats made it easy because they want to get all these shiftless layabouts to vote. They are about to discover what a petard is. It's very easy to register to vote. You can do it, at the Department of Motor Vehicles. You can do it at the welfare office. We tried to make it so that they'd be able to register at gun ranges. Screw you, Democrats. If you're going to say you can register to vote at the welfare office, we're going to say you can do it at the gun range. But it's very easy. Just figure out how to do it and register to vote, Trump voters.
What do you think is going to happen electorally? Because we've seen a difference right now. First, there was a shift in the national polls where we saw Trump coming back there, but he was still behind electorally. If you looked at all the state polls, she still had the necessary electoral votes to win. But now states like Ohio, Florida,
I mean, he's
Iowa.
even close in states like Minnesota and Michigan, and even Colorado is now back in play, which she had basically pulled out because she said she thought she had it wrapped up in the bag. But what do you make of that he's...
Well, I still think he's going to win. I've always thought he's going to win, not as clearly as I thought he was going to be the nominee. But I got to tell you, 60% chance of Trump winning. I did not think America had a 60% chance 1 year ago. Well, maybe a year ago because Trump was running. But before that Mexican rapist speech, I wouldn't have given America a 10%. It was probably about a 10-20% chance. I mean, that's why I wrote Adios America. I didn't think it was completely over, but it was pretty darn close. And so 60% chance of saving America is fantastic as far as I'm concerned. And I do think, what's interesting to me is Trump had, let's be honest, a lazy and self-indulgent debate performance. Even not preparing, and it's fantastic that at least we know he was telling the truth when he said he wasn't preparing. Okay, we know he's an honest man. Even with that, he won all the online polls. And I don't care if the New York Times rushes out to tell us, they don't count. You can only vote one time. Now, maybe, to some extent it measures enthusiasm. But on every website, on Time Magazine, on Slate, which is a liberal website, he won all the online polls. And I looked at that the night of the debate, and I thought, this is how people register the fact that they're voting for Trump without telling a pollster they're voting for Trump. I think in a way this tells us something the polls don't tell us, because they've just spent 14 months, and especially now, especially recently, just denouncing him. You will not hear from him. They will not show his speeches. They will not even put on, other than John Phillips, and I guess Kayleigh McEnerney, they will not put on a halfway articulate person who supports Donald Trump on television. You simply cannot hear from those people. So in an environment where the media is hysterically calling Trump Hitler, well, I think there are two conclusions from that. One is they were all whining before the debate, his expectations are so low. Yeah, you bet they are. All he has to do is not be Hitler. And who lowered the expectations? I believe that's you, media. Point two is, I think in some of these polls, and look, maybe I'm whistling past the graveyard, but I do think if there's ever an opportunity for a Bradley effect where people don't want to tell pollsters who they're voting for, it's in an environment where for more than a year we've been told this guy is Hitler. And especially because I think Trump is appealing to a lot of constituencies who aren't Republicans. People who are registered Democrats, a lot of Hispanics, a lot of African Americans. In that environment, it's enough for someone who's been a Republican all his life to tell a pollster, yes, I'm voting for Hitler. For someone who is a Democrat, through and through, and I don't care what Trump is. He could call himself anything. And I love that Republicans keep attacking him and saying he's not a real Republican. That helps him appeal to lifelong Democrats, and especially African Americans. I keep making the pitch to them. I know you don't like Republicans, but remember what the rest of my party keeps telling you. He's not a real Republican. Just forget that R after his name. So I think that the online polls about a totally selfish, self-indulgent, and lazy debate performance claiming that he won, that's people saying, I'm going to vote for this guy, and he didn't come out on stage, take a dump, and leave. That's good enough for me.
I mean, Clinton definitely outperformed him. I don't think she got the knockout, though, that she was looking for. And I think once we look at some of these other tracking polls, I don't think she gets maybe a 1 or 2 point bump from this.
Maybe not even that. Because he wins on issues. And I do think he won at the beginning of the debate because we were talking about an issue.
He did a great job addressing issues, and then it kind of fell off the cliff a little bit.
Oh, he took the bait, and I love this. It tells you all about our media and the Democrats, that their definition of, quote, taking the bait is, ha-ha, we got him to stop talking about issues that matter to the American people. We lured him into talking about himself. On his issues, he wins. He's got to keep that in his head. Whenever he talks about his issues, he wins. When he talks about himself, he loses. Their method, and I think she may not even get a 1 point bump, because I just, again, going to the online polls that claimed he won. Were we all watching the same debate? I mean, again, I think he did win at the beginning, whenever it was on issues. But you get the impression that voters, we've made our decision, we don't want her. We want him. It's like we're a hiring committee, and we've all decided there are 2 applicants, A and B, and we all want applicant A, but, there's this one last thing we need. He's going to have to show us his driver's license. And he showed up at the debate, showed his driver's license, again, by not doing something completely insane. And she's like desperately working the admissions committee, the hiring committee, saying, but I've taken driver's ed 16 times, and I've explained the vehicular homicide, and the GPS was hacked by the Russians, and the hiring committee isn't even listening. No, we've already decided we want Trump. Now we just need to see this one last thing. Just show us your driver's license and you're in.
And debates aren't scored on points like a boxing match. Everyone has different objectives when you go into one of these debates. Trump's objectives, as you mentioned, were to go in there and not be Hitler and try to win back some of these Republicans that voted for Romney that
but the
have
media
reservations for him.
It's their fault.
On Hillary's side, what she had to do, because they have different math now. When Bill Clinton was the nominee, he ran as a New Democrat. He tried to win the middle. He won in places like Kentucky and Louisiana and Florida. With Obama, they changed how they approach presidential elections. They just talked to one sliver of the country. They talked to young people, liberals, and minorities, and they spiked turnout by saying, oh, it's the first black president. Oh, it's the first woman president. And she had to go in there, and she had to give those voters a reason to be excited about her candidacy, and I don't think she did it. And a lot of people have gotten caught up. Oh, I think so, too. A lot of people got caught up in the whole Colin Kaepernick thing, that he kneels when the national anthem is playing. But they lost themselves on the fact that he also said, and I have no love for Hillary Clinton because of the super predator remark, and if I did what she did with the emails, I'd be in jail. If she can't get that person with that profile excited about her candidacy against Donald Trump, she's in big trouble.
Right. I mean, the whole thing with Obama was, it was like a mark of being cool. It's like you're listening to the cool, hip, new group out there. It was a cool thing. And I will say, I'm glad we don't have to run against Obama again, other than his policies. He's elegant, he looks good in a suit, he's charming, he's funny. Whoa, Hillary is none of those things. None of those things. There's nothing. I mean, all the stupid young people acted like, voting for Obama made them, the equivalent of a civil rights marcher. It was a cool thing to support Obama. There is nothing cool about voting for that dreary old lady.
Well, actually, I do have a question for you, Ann, and I wanted to get this on the table before you bring it up, because you might have heard a huge thud last night, and that was my head hitting the wall when Gary Johnson blanked on naming a foreign leader he could admire. But don't you think Donald Trump would want him to do well? Because I feel like he pulls votes away from Clinton. Should we be kind of cheering him on a little bit?
Let's listen to the sound.
Yeah.
This is Gary Johnson on
this is
NBC
fantastic.
News.
Your favorite foreign leader? Who's my favorite?
Just name anywhere in the country, any one of the continents, any country. Name one foreign leader that you respect.
Yul Brynner on The King and I.
Anybody.
Arnold Shimon Peres.
No, okay, I'm talking about living. Go ahead. You got to do this. Anywhere, any continent. Canada, Mexico, Europe, over there, Asia, South America, Africa. Name a foreign leader that you respect.
I guess I'm having an Aleppo moment in the former president of Mexico.
But I'm giving you the whole world.
I know.
Anybody in the world you like. Anybody. Pick any leader.
The former president of Mexico.
Which one?
I'm having a brain.
Name anybody.
Diaz.
Okay, who's your favorite foreign leader? Get him off the hook. Name a foreign leader you respect.
He was terrific.
Any foreign leader?
Merkel.
Okay, Merkel. Okay, fine. Save yourself. Can't argue with that.
They should have just asked him what marijuana strain he preferred.
I definitely think the cause of marijuana legalization has been set back by about 20 years with Gary.
I mean, after that, he did have a very coherent discussion about his foreign policy, which
no one saw it, Alexa.
No one saw it, of course. You know, my heart died a little bit. But I mean, I feel he pulls more from Clinton, so in my mind, I would think Trump supporters would want him to do a little bit better.
I think he's going to get very little of the vote, one way or another. I mean, I thought that from the beginning.
I disagree. I'll tell you why. I think he serves two purposes right now in this election. He serves essentially as the none of the above box. So if you're upset with both people, but you go out and vote because it's your civic duty, you're going to vote for Gary Johnson. And libertarians used to always scream about getting rid of the Department of Education and Health and Human Services and Veterans Affairs. And now all they talk about is marijuana.
Yep.
So if you're a single-issue voter and marijuana is your issue, it tends to skew younger, it tends to skew more liberal, tends to skew Western, then you're going to vote for Gary Johnson. He's polling in double digits in Colorado. Trump was ahead of Hillary Clinton in Colorado in part because Gary Johnson is pulling so many votes from Hillary. I think he's great.
Well, I also think he pulls minority votes with his criminal justice reform.
Oh, yeah, because he can go farther than she can.
I'll bet you both it will be negligible, the votes that Gary Johnson takes. Yeah, okay, you have potheads. Are they really going to get up and stand in line to vote for somebody that maybe if there's something else on the ballot like pot legalization, the only thing they care about,
pizza at the voting
or if there's free pizza, exactly.
But Trump is doing well in states that he has no business doing well in.
I think he does have business doing well in. I was telling you on the drive over here. They did a half an hour on MSNBC with Steve Kornacki, who usually has a pretty good analysis, so they're all getting a little crazy these days about, whoa, this weird mystery, none of us saw this coming, Trump's getting 30% of the Hispanic vote in Nevada. And they send in one of their correspondents to sit on a Spanish-language radio station in Nevada and take calls and ask the people listening to the station to explain why they're all for Trump. And they called in and said, well, I run a small business, and he's totally going to help us. And somebody else calls in and says, you know, the competition is really tough. Yeah, I mean, some of these people I know, I'm friends with them, they've grown up here. I wouldn't like to see them deported, but if that's what we have to do to bring the jobs back, oh well. He's getting 30%. The reason people are surprised is because they won't put people on TV who are not surprised. I'm frantically waving my hand here, you know, at the TV screen. Check with Ann. No, I do think Trump is going to do better. I mean, I've said this on your show before, but it's the perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about, what I think the mentality is. I spent Christmas in Palm Beach, and when I was there over this past Christmas, after Trump just ran away with the polls, I'm going to Christmas parties with the plutocrats, and one very famous plutocrat, I'll tell you the name of on the commercial break. Just every Christmas party you went to, you'd run into him, and they were all shell-shocked. They didn't know what was going on.
They were all Jeb people, right?
He said, I don't understand it. We were all for Jeb, but all the Hispanic help is for Trump. And I think that's true. They want jobs. They want their wages to go up.
Our guest is Ann Coulter. The book is In Trump We Trust. E Pluribus Awesome, available online right now at Amazon.com. If you want to join in on the conversation, the number is 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. When we return, we'll get into the whole Miss Universe controversy.
Excellent.
Or I guess I should say Miss Piggy controversy. John Phillips, Alexis Garcia.